Okay, so yesterday I watched the season finale of Oshi no Ko. This was episode, excuse me, I had a little bit of hair on my mouth. It was episode 11, but the first episode it's a movie. It's an hour and 25 minutes, so it's essentially 3 episodes. So if you look at it as those are the first 3 episodes, and then there's the next 10, you end up with a regular 13 episode core, so it all kind of works out. So before I talk about the show itself and like the later episodes, I want to go over my first impressions, because first impressions is something that's always really interesting, because sometimes your first impression is right on the money. Like, I remember when I first turned on Angel Beats, and it starts with Angel sitting at the piano and playing it, I was like, oh, this is lovely. I am going to love this entire show. And I did. It's not one of my all-time favorites, but I liked it a lot. And then there's shit like Monogatari, where the first episode, I think, it is a good look at what Monogatari is, but for me, I was like, this is kind of a bit much at once. I don't know, because I know I had watched it last year. I had tried watching it, I think, several years prior, and I honestly just couldn't get into the first couple episodes because of just how Monogatari it is. But I am glad I was able to give it another chance. Oshi is a lot like that, where the first impression I got was very different by my end impression, and I'm very glad that it was. And it all starts with the fucking title. Oshi no Ko, just in Japanese, it sounds nice, it sounds kind of catchy, I don't know what the fuck it means. The translation that I am most familiar with, or at least was the first I had read for it, was my idol's child. Huh. What? It's like, oh, so immediately there's kind of 2 things that come to mind. Either A, okay, this is gonna be like a show about a babysitter, like who's like there's someone that he really idolizes or cares about, or it is like a performing idol, like an idol pop group, and like he's looking after her child, like it's a babysitter thing, which hopefully is really sweet and not weird and creepy. Or it's some kind of weird isekai, and I look at the plot synopsis like, oh, it's a weird isekai. A doctor who, and then you're also just kind of putting it on and watching the first few minutes, like, so this doctor who was really into this idol group, and this one idol specifically, her name is I, I for idol, because a patient of his was really into that group and the patient died. So in a way, it's like supporting I and her group is almost kind of like keeping the torch of that previous patient who did die. I think I had said that, but just in case I didn't, she did die of cancer. Like, almost kind of like keeping her spark going in a way, which is sweet. But then you've got other people calling him like a lollier. It's like, she's like 16, like that idol, right? That's a little weird that you're like a big fan of her. And it's like, you're doing this, in the memory of a dead patient. Like, that's really sweet, but she was also like a little kid. You're not like weird, are you? And I'm like, show the fact that you're bringing it up and calling attention to it now is making me uncomfortable, because now I am just like, is he weird? I don't know. And I'll be honest, I'm still not really sure. No, like, at least like when it comes to like his feelings for I, like how much of it is I respect her as an artist, or like do I actually have a thing for her? Because I don't even think Aqua himself really knows, which when they called attention to it, it was pretty interesting. But then she ends up coming to his hospital. She is pregnant, and he's helping her go through the pregnancy. He's going to deliver her kids, but he ends up getting murdered by this crazy stalker who ends up, I don't remember if the stalker pushed him off a cliff or while running from the stalker, he fell off himself, but he died, and this maybe wasn't quite murder, it might have just been an accident. But he ends up dying, and he is reincarnated as one of her twins. Coincidentally, her other twin, so it's a twin boy, that's Aqua. The twin girl named Ruby, well, Aquamarine, but everyone calls them Aqua, because they're both gems. Ruby is the reincarnation of the dead patient who had died, I don't remember how many years. It was like 2, 3, 4 years ago, something like that. Both of them have all of their memories of their previous lives. Both of them kind of have an inclination as to who the other twin is, but they never really go into their histories. I think they said at one point, like, yeah, we kind of agreed not to do that. Who gives a shit? You're my sister now. I'm your brother now. And anytime they just, you see them wearing shirts that say, like, twins and shit, I think it's super adorable. So when you're getting into this part, and it's like the early lives of the twins living with I, at first I wasn't on board, because I was like, so this guy who may or may not have had a crush on her is now her baby. So, I mean, it was weird before from that angle, but now there's like an election. No, that would be an Oedipus complex. Like now it's like an Oedipus complex, maybe, which, what the fuck am I watching? But when it's focusing on this from I's perspective, of this young girl wanting to be a mother, like genuinely loving her kids, but understanding that I am an idol. My image is the most important thing, and I have carefully crafted and constructed my image. Like every movement, every word, every smile has to be frame perfect, like it's like Kubrick is directing my life to sell my product, and my product is myself. And if people find out I have kids, that leads to a problem, because an idol is supposed to be pure. You know, you have fans who just kind of genuinely think you're pretty cool. There's fans who like the music, but then you've got the fans that really like you, and they kind of like, you're almost their wish fulfillment. And if they find out that you're in a relationship, well, they'll turn on you, especially if they find out that you have kids, because at that point they might look at you as tainted. You know, some of these fans are really possessive and obsessive, and I've seen Perfect Blue. I know how that kind of shit can go. One of my favorite animated movies, by the way. Sorry, it's really hot in here. I need to get some water. But to my point, I'm like, yeah, I get what she's talking about, and literally the reason the doctor died is because of one of those super possessive, obsessive stalkers. So it makes a lot of sense. And so when it was focusing on that angle and her kids just wanting to see their mom do well and support their mom, I was like, you know what? This is starting to grow on me. So this is maybe a third, halfway through the first episode, which again is like a movie. I'm like, fuck, this is working. As weird as the premise is, as weird as the title is, I'm getting on board. But there's this undercurrent here. Part of it was because all I kept seeing was people saying, this first episode is really good, I'm on board. I was not expecting that ending, holy shit. So I go in knowing the ending is crazy. I look it up on TV Tropes and I'm like, all right, what is this actually about? And the first thing I see is, don't read, like, we highly recommend you watch the first episode or read the first volume of the manga before you read anything. So I'm like, okay, it's one of those, like, it's some Doki Doki Madoka Maguka kind of shit where, yeah, the first impression is deliberately misleading. Okay, I'm gonna give it its fair shake, but what's gonna happen? And whenever we just get those moments from Ai's perspective about, again, how carefully crafted she is, how just aware of her surroundings she always is, and I'm like, she's really creepy. Is she like a sociopath? Because I think she even starts talking about, like, I love my kids, but do I actually love my kids? I think she says a few times, like, I've never actually said I love you to them because I'm scared that I'll say it and I won't mean it. That I'll say it and it will feel as fake as all of the other things I've done or said on stage or in interviews. And I'm so terrified that I won't mean it, that I will keep these feelings to myself. I'm like, okay, she's a sociopath. She's a nutball. I've read enough Sea Cats at this point to know there's going to be some skeletons. I think I was reading Umineko at that point. It's like, to know there's some skelebones in your closet. What are they? And then we get to the end of the episode where, oh yeah, I mean, I probably should have said full spoilers, but if you watch my channel, you probably already know that. Let me go ahead and give a spoiler countdown. I will also be sure to put in the description of the video, this where will be full spoilers the entire time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, full spoilers. She had been kind of in hiding. Not like super in hiding, but just, you know, keeping a low profile. People aren't really supposed to know where you live. You are a celebrity. She had texted the twins' father because she wants him to visit, because this is someone that she still loves. And instead of the father showing up at the house, that stalker from earlier in the episode, which at this point was like 4 years ago, maybe not that much. I don't remember how old the twins were at this point. I want to say like, yeah, they had to have been old enough to be on set. So like 5, maybe somewhere around there. He shows up at the house and he kills her. She is stabbed to death, and you get this, feels like a pretty long sequence of her dying and like the color of her blood, and you see like literally like that starlight fading from her eyes as, you know, her kids are right there holding her as she dies. And in her final moments, she does tell them, like, she says, "I love you," and she's like, "What do you know? I meant it. You know, that I didn't have any reason to be afraid. This wasn't part of the act. I love my kids." Then you flash forward to about a decade later, like 8 years, 10 years, something like that, where her kids are now, I think they just graduated middle school. They're going into high school. And Ruby, the daughter, wants to be an idol just like her mom, which is what she always wanted to do, like when she was sick in bed as well. And the doctor, Aqua, wants to investigate and find out who his mom gave that information to. It's like, okay, the guy who killed her was just some random asshole. Like that, like, I remember him. That's the guy that was on me. He got, like, very, very few people knew where we were. Mom gave someone that information who leaked it. That was probably our father. Our father is the reason my mom died. I am going to find him, and I'm going to expose him. He was probably someone in the industry, so I am going to, you know, it's kind of like Suzaku Code Geass, like, I'm going to work my way up the industry. But it's like, I am going to become a part of the entertainment industry to find this son of a bitch. And I will, like, use whatever connections, whatever skills I can to get there. And that's how the first episode ends, as, like, I think there's, like, this close-up on his eyes and, like, how fucked up and creepy they are. And I was like, oh, shit. Shit, I'm hooked. Man, like, my first impression was that this was gonna be just some, weird, icky, uncomfortable shit, but fuck, this is really interesting. And if I'm being honest, it never stopped being interesting. I consistently really, really liked this show. What it's really about to me, like the big themes are just, it's an examination of the entertainment industry. It is an examination of how every performer, whether it's a film actor, an idol, a YouTuber, a stage actress, etc., etc., you are a product, or you are part of a product. And as a product, you don't have the longest shelf life. And as a product, there are things that are highly expected of you. And sometimes what you're expected to do is be really fucking good at your job. Sometimes what you're expected to do is not be as good as your job. Like, there's a part where they're filming a show based off a manga, and how the show is taking a lot of creative liberty. Like, there's this scene where there's a bunch of mangaka who are talking, and they're all like, oh, like, your show got adapted? Don't watch it. Like, they're never good. They just do whatever the fuck they can to sell, and, like, they'll use your name to sell some copies, but it's not going to be a faithful adaptation. It's gonna suck. Sorry to say that to you. Like, I know you're excited and your work is phenomenal, but they're not going to do it justice. And yeah, it's like they cast a bunch of really pretty people who aren't good actors, knowing that, yeah, but people are gonna watch it for the name, and people are gonna watch to see these pretty people, even if the acting isn't great. So you, Kana, you're a good actress, but you're at like a 9. Can you tone it down to like a 6 so you can be on their level? Because if you're outshining them, it's going to feel weird. But if you're on their level, you know, the production can run smoothly. Can you do that? Thanks. I was like, oh, this shit is really interesting to me. And how, yeah, Kana was a child actress. And then when she got too old, I don't even remember how old 2 was. It was like 8, 10, something like that. It was like, yeah, but you're just not what we're looking for anymore. So, see ya. Or you have Mem, who is a YouTuber who really wanted to be an idol, but I really liked her backstory too. She's like, yeah, like, this is something I really, really wanted to do, but my family needed me more. I think it was like my mom was sick, and I had to look after all my brothers, and, you know, I had to work a lot of jobs to, you know, make sure all the medical bills were taken care of, food was on the table, etc., etc. And by the time my mom got better, I didn't really have to look after my family anymore. I'm like 25, and that's too old to be an idol, so I missed out on my dream, but it's okay. I was still able to be in the industry. I kind of made my own way. I had to learn how to be good at YouTube, how to be good at other stuff. That is still my dream, but the dream has passed. It's all you can do. Which leads to the other side of it. It's like, yes, here's the entertainment industry. Here's the product. Here's how you make the product. But the other side of it is that it is not just a product. That is a person. You have Kana always talking about like her anxieties, her failures, and how she's so quick to just be down on herself and her career. It's like a lot of self-deprecating humor. And it's like, yeah, this is very clearly a defense mechanism because it just makes it easier for her to deal with that shit. She's like, yeah, I've let a lot of people down. They believed in me and the product didn't sell. Maybe it's because I wasn't good enough. Maybe it's because the market wasn't right. But whatever it is, I let them down and they dropped me. It is what it is. It sucks. But that's just the nature of the beast. And that's really sad and it's really interesting. But Kana's also like by far the funniest character. Just like the shit she says, her facial reactions. Like I want to say she's my favorite. I think she's to me is the most entertaining character. I remember very early on, I saw a joke about how Kana is the main heroine, not Ruby. And honestly, throughout season 1, that's kind of accurate. And then on top of that, you also get Akane, who is another character. While Kana is more of like a TV actress, Akane is a stage actress. She's really good at getting into character and can captivate an audience. But she ends up being on a reality show where, you know, she's just trying to be herself. And when she's just being herself, she's not really standing out. She's not getting a lot of attention. So I think it's like her manager and her company, it's more just like the head of the company is kind of like, well, why the fuck did we like even get her on the show? You know, it costs a lot of money to get a spot on something like that. You know, it costs a lot of favors, and it's basically not worth it because she gets no screen time, and when she does, she's doing nothing with it. Which then leads to her trying to become like a little more aggressive, like starting to play a character, but then there's an accident where she accidentally like scratches someone's face. And it's genuinely an accident. Immediately after the camera's cut, that person just hugs her and she's like, dude, are you okay? Like, yeah, you just scratched me, but I know that was an accident. I know things aren't like, shit might not be going well. Are you okay? But the audience doesn't see that because the cameras were rolling, but not the main cameras were rolling. All people see in the show is the scratch, the aftermath, and this poor woman gets demonized. Everyone goes after her. And you just get like, I think it's maybe like 2 episodes or so, maybe an episode and a half of the fallout. A lot of people, or it's like, you know, like social media and the management company sees the product and they attack the product. But this is still a person, and the person takes all those things, well, very, very personally. And after like several weeks of just reading all of these horrible comments, death threats, all kinds of shit, she attempts suicide. And I don't know if I would say it's the most heartbreaking moment in the show, because the first episode ends with a woman being murdered and her kids being right there to witness it. But if it's not Ai's death, it's Akane's suicide attempt. And I remember that's how that episode ends. And then after the ending thing, which, by the way, real quick, the opening is phenomenal, the ending is phenomenal. After they play the ending song, there's just this message. And I don't know if this, I don't know if this aired on TV or if this was just on, just online, where it even just kind of said, like, hey, if you need help, call the hotline. Like, there are people who are trained to help you if you feel like this. You know, this is what's going on in the show. But please don't think we are trying to glamorize suicide. It is not something to be glamorized. And I'm really glad there was something like that. And then very early on in the next episode, you know, she gets taken. Aqua's the one that stopped the suicide attempt. They go to the police station. The police just kind of interrogates, like, what the fuck happened? Akane's mom is there, and she's like, I had no idea that my daughter was feeling this. Why didn't you tell me? And then Akane bursts into tears, and she just says, like, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to have you worrying about me. And it was just fucking tugging on my heartstrings, man. It's just really good. It's really sad. And then the entire next episode is all of the rest of her castmates just, like, essentially making a video to share with the public about a lot of, like, the behind the scenes footage, to be like, hey, we get what you're shown on the show and how it kind of made her out to be a villain, but she is our friend. You know, the person that she accidentally scratched completely forgave her. Like, there's no, like, oh yeah, you know, she said I forgive you, but she's really harboring something. It's like, no, we're all really close. We're all good friends. This is our friend, and you guys have, like, fucked her up. Can you ease off, please? And it works. And it's like, yeah, it's all a product again. It all depends on how you spin it, how you sell it to the public. This is what was sold before, so now let's sell them the other side of it and earn their sympathies back. Let's see. What happened after that? I think after that was just, kind of building up to the idol performance with Ruby, Kana, and Mem, who was, excuse me. And Mem is, like, one of the castmates on that reality show, which was fun. I enjoyed that part, too. Let me see, what else do I really have to say? Honestly, that's basically it. I think, yeah, the ending and the opening are great. These are the main themes of the show, and to me, it's just been consistently interesting the entire time. I love how... Oh, no, there is actually one other scene I wanted to talk about. So it's like, after all that shit with Akane, and they're like, okay, Akane, this is completely up to you. No bullshit, kind of like I was saying in Tales of the Abyss. It's like, no judgment either way. Do you want to stay on the show, or do you want to step away? And she says, like, okay, I do want to come back to the show. I am going to need maybe like a week or so off, but I do want to come back. And one of the things she's kind of told by her friends is, maybe what you should do is don't be yourself. And, like, I know how that sounds. Like, we're not trying to be assholes, be like, you're a terrible person, don't be yourself. But when you're on a reality show, sometimes the best thing to do is to play a character. So that way, when this kind of shit happens, like, if you get bad feedback, if people are like, well, I hate you, you're awful. When you're being yourself, it's very personal. But if you're playing a character, well, it doesn't really matter because that's not you. They're hating the character that you're playing. And you're a really good actress. You can really, like, you could easily become a character. And so she kind of thinks about it. So she talks to Aqua, or I think they talk to Aqua for it, like, what kind of girls do you like? And he describes I, which again, that's where you're like, oh yeah, like this, that is kind of creepy. But Akane thinks about that. And she's like, okay, you know, he described a woman like this, and that sounds like I. So she does a lot of research into I, and there's just this scene of her, like, fucking Elle from Death Note with Charlie's Wall from It's Always Sunny. It's like, okay, so I've researched this, you know, based on this interview with this is probably what was going on in her life. This is probably what's going on here. Just like takes a thing, puts it on the wall, takes the thing, puts it on the wall. I'm like, this is, okay, this is really interesting. This is super fucking creepy. And then when she shows up at the set the next day and Aqua's like, yeah, I mean, apparently she's got to try to play a character that's like but no one can really replicate that. And then in 2 seconds, Akane's got him wrapped around her finger. It's like, which I thought was pretty funny. But like, okay, she's a really good actress, but fuck, that was really creepy. And so I guess the other thing I have to say is there is a forming love triangle. It's not even forming. It's kind of already formed between Aqua, Kana, and Akane. Kana has always liked them since they were kids, and now they see each other a lot more often. Akane, after Aqua stepped in to stop the suicide attempt and was the main force behind, like, doing all the PR shit to kind of get the public to get off her back, she really likes him too, and now they're going to be in a show together where they're both playing his the love interest of his character, and it turns out they have beef from years ago where they really hate each other, and I'm just like, I can't lie, I love this kind of shit. I love me a good love triangle. I also love me a bad love triangle. Like, I just enjoy this kind of shit. But that's really what it is. It's like, I really like this show when it's focusing on these more, like, just, this is how the entertainment industry works. I think I said industry. The entertainment industry works. I think it's really interesting and I'm invested. When it focuses on the individual characters and their personal histories and how the industry has affected them and their anxieties, their depressions, it's really interesting. When it just allows characters to hang out and, like, be stupid and shit talk, it's also, that could just be really fun and really entertaining. I like it a lot. I do, now that it's done, I do want to read the manga. I'm not sure if the manga is finished. I don't know when I'll get around to it, though. Like, it's probably going to have to get added to the reading list. But like I said, I'm really looking forward to it. I liked it a lot. If you haven't seen it, I hope you give it a shot. I know I've spoiled basically the entire first season, but I hope you do watch it. I hope you enjoy it. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought of it. Like, did you like it? Do you think it's overrated? Because I know it's getting praised. Like, everything I see about the show is just how fucking great it is. Do you think it's worthy of that? Do you think it's overrated? I'm interested to know your opinion. That's all for this. Just have a good day.